Well, happy Father's Day. I love the video, all the kids saying their dads like to play with them and eat food. I guess that's what we're good at, is eating. For those that don't know you, my name's Robbie Thomas, and I'm one of the pastors here on staff. I've been here since November 1st of 2014, so it's been almost 12 years, and it's been a journey. It's been fun. We hope that you feel honored today, dads. We know that Father's Day could bring up good emotions or bad emotions. It could bring up pain. It could bring up memories. It could bring up lots of different emotions that show up with that. To those of you who are watching online, thank you for joining us today as well. Today starts the summer solstice, so Father's Day is actually the longest day of the year. There you go. There you go. Men, we wear different hats. For me personally, my hats include, here's just some of mine. I'm a coach, boss, employee, brother, friend, leader, husband, but the greatest hat that I wear is being the dad to my three kids, Austin, 17, Ainsley, 13, and Ashton, 11. And we didn't intentionally start out gonna name them all A's, because when you get stumbled up, you just call them all and eventually get the right one. But since we got to the second one, we might as well keep the party rolling, and Ashton came along as well. I didn't understand what it meant to be a dad when I first became one. For me, I became a dad March 6th of 2009. Austin was born. We had no idea what we were doing. We didn't get an instruction manual. We had none of that was on display for us. But yet, this was back in a time when you could send your baby to the nursery after they're born, and instead of staying in the room with you all the time, you could send them back to the nursery and take a little break and learn, kind of ease into it. Now they just drop them in your lap and say good luck. And so Melissa had a C-section, and she was knocked out for the first 6 or 7 hours after he came out. So I'm processing all this stuff by myself, and he had to go to the NICU because he flared his nostril, and I went to the nursery, and he's the only one that's not sunny side up, and I'm like, what is going on with that kid? Oh, that's yours. And so he went to the NICU, and the NICU nurses had a great time playing with him, and they'd come back and he had a spiked up mohawk. We couldn't get rid of his mohawk for like 2 months, but it was great. And so when you get ready to leave, they want you to give you 2 instructions. They say, hey, write down if he pees and how much he eats. I'm like, out of all of humanity, that's the only instructions you're gonna give me? It didn't come with this instruction manual, not that we would have read it anyway. But they give you this kid, and one of the things they said on the way out was, hey, you need to put him in a car seat. Well, we had a car seat, but I grew up in a day where you didn't have car seat, you just had mom's arm. And I didn't know what that was about. I'd never put a kid in a car seat before. And the nurse was like, you have to put him in the car seat before we let you leave. I'm like, okay, great. Well, then I do it wrong. I've got his legs all sprawled out like he's actually giving birth. And the nurse, this English nurse, looks at us and she goes, oh, Lovey, you're doing it wrong. He looks like a froggy. So I had to redo it, and then they put us in the car. And on the way home, I remember looking at the stoplight and thinking, oh my gosh, what have these people done? They let me leave with this kid. We have no idea what we're doing. I looked back and I felt the weight immediately of what being a father was like. Am I gonna do this right? What am I gonna teach him? What if I fail? And I started realizing that I needed help. They didn't give me an instruction manual to say, hey, when he's 3, turn to page 5. When he's 10, do this. When he gives you attitude as a teenager, flip to the back of the book and read all the indexes and all the stuff. They gave us nothing. Write down if he eats, write down if he pees. He did that great. Right before I do that, I walked in with no kid, and I came out with the responsibility of being a father. And it was weird for me, like not weird because I knew I was gonna be able to take care of him and provide for him the best that I could, but what if I mess it up? What if I do this wrong? And so I understand that Father's Day may bring good emotions for some, and you reflect on all the good times you had with your dad, and you reflect on what he taught you and how he invested in your life and he showed up for you. I also understand the other side of that coin for those that have had a difficult relationship with their dad, or there's been an absence. that brings pain and bitterness, and sometimes we don't understand. Maybe your father blessed you, was this awesome father for you, and you want to be, he was your role model, he was your hero, and you want to be that kind of dad to your kids and to the people behind you. That influences us. Maybe your life was marked by the absence of this father, and that the absence brings up raw emotion and pain, and sometimes you feel like I should have had better, or I should get better. I understand too that influences us. See, fathers, we have this unique role that's been given to us, and it's only that God gave it to us as dads. He gave the unit of the family to both of us. To the mom, he gave certain qualities and characteristics, and to the dad, he gave certain qualities and characteristics. And both of these together are supposed to come together to help us raise this next generation. But ultimately, sometimes it doesn't work out and it fails. And some of you moms have been thrust into a situation to where you're having to play both roles. And that too influences us, and I understand that. So I asked this question, what are we teaching our kids about God? I mean, what are they looking at? My kids don't walk in the house and go, oh, Pastor Robbie's here. No, they don't. They see me raw and real. They see me in my good times and in my bad. These are the kids that see me when I've got it right and when I've got it wrong. And so I'm not standing up here as some expert today that just tells everybody how to do it, but I do know this, men, the way that we live our lives and the way that we lead our families and the way that we show up has influence on our kids, and this role has been given to us for a reason. And that fathers sometimes weigh the weight, and sometimes we drop the ball, and sometimes we understand I've got to keep moving and keep going, and hopefully I'm going to get them there one day. And then other times you're looking back going, I'm never going to get them there. And then this influence that we've got shows up in different ways. It's sometimes good and sometimes bad. And the display that we put out there is, am I leading them to Jesus or am I taking them away from Jesus? And so I weigh this weight with me, and I understand what it feels like. And for those in the room that you may have a great relationship with your dad, that's great. For those in the room that have a rocky relationship with your dad that brings up all these different emotions, I understand that too. There's something today that we can learn from this for all of us in the room. According to data backed up by Promise Keepers and Baptist Press and some European studies, if a father does not go to church, even if his wife does, 1 in 50 children will become saved and become regular church attenders. However, if the father regularly attends church, even if his wife does not, 66% of his children will become regular faith attenders. We have this massive influence. If both parents attend church, 75% of that household is likely to keep walking in the faith. The statistics frequently cited say that 93% probability of the rest of the family will follow if the father gives his life to Christ first. If the child gives his life to Christ first, then it's 3.5% of the household will get saved. If a mom gives their life to Christ first, it's 17%. So the dad has massive weight in the family. And so today we're looking at this opportunity to see what God has given us for instruction on how to be a father and a godly dad. And today's title is A Lasting Legacy. We want the effects of a father's faith. And so I want to leave a legacy to my kids, and I understand that I'm leaving them something. They're following in my footsteps. They're mimicking my behavior. They're saying the same things I do. What legacy am I going to leave them? Because we're going to leave them something. Deuteronomy 6 gives us instructions on how to pass this along to our kids. And this is one of those commands that God gave to fathers. And these words I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children. And you shall talk about them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the wayside and when you lie down and when you rise. See, we've been given this role to say our faith should be on display all the time. It shouldn't just be when we pray over our meal. It should be all day, every day, in every aspect of your life, on the golf course, on the fishing, on the boat, at the house, when they're going to bed, when you're driving in the car. All of that should point our kids to Jesus. Here's some stats that are going to be tough to hear. And I don't want to dampen the room and step on people's toes and hurt people's feelings, but here, this shows you how the father influence can reduce these stats. 63% of youth suicides come from fatherless homes. 90% of all children who are runaways come from fatherless homes. 85% of children with behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. 71% of high school dropouts are from fatherless homes. There's more stats. Nearly 25 million children live without their biological father in the United States. Fatherless homes are 4 times more likely to live in poverty than married couples are. Fatherless homes produce 72% of all teenage murders. 60% of youth gang members come from fatherless homes. Teen boys without fathers are twice as likely to carry a weapon. Teen girls without fathers are 7 times more likely to become pregnant. And 85% of all youth prisons come from fatherless homes. When I read these stats, it's shocking and it hurts to hear those stats, and the weight gets even bigger and bigger for me. As a dad, am I asking these questions? Am I doing it right? Are they getting it? What Bible am I teaching to these kids? Do they see me pointing them to Jesus or taking them back to the world? See, the weight that I have is hard. It's showing the personality that God gave to us as dads to step in and actually be real, to be on display. And it's not about being perfect. It's about pointing them to the one who is perfect. See, my role as a dad is to put boundaries and protection over my kids and try to establish them so that they have a faith and to lay down faith roots. It's God's job to grow that seed into maturity. And so a lot of times I get my role confused that I've got to fix them and I've got to save them and what if I break it? What if I mess it up? And so that weight messes me up. We need a godly generation of men who understand the importance of having their faith on display. That it's not a closet, quiet secret that you pray over a meal and that's all your family sees is your faith leading. It's a display of faith that's bold and audacious and in front of people and allows them to see that your kids are going to see you mess up. It's okay because the gospel can cleanse all of that. And you say, Robbie, I try to point my kids to Jesus, but what if I get it wrong? And what if they don't respond? I get it. That's pain. It brings hurt. But that's not your job. Your job is to point them to the one who can heal, not be the healer for them. I know some of you may not have kids and you may not understand what I'm talking about, but you too can still be a godly influence to the next generation. I coach my son's baseball teams for 2 reasons. 1, I like baseball. Well, 2.5 reasons. 2, a lot of the coaches have no idea what they're doing. And 3, I want to use baseball as a tool to help another generation see a godly influence in their life. I don't always get that right because I like winning, right? And my players like to win and they like to understand what that feels like. And when I get fired up because they're making mistakes, I still love them and want to see them because I know that I've been given 15 to 17-year-olds that may not have that influence in their life. And I'm not stepping in to be super dad for them, but I do know that I asked the question, am I failing? And so I understand that you might be asking that too. Our kids need to see us role models that they look up to along the journey. See, here's Satan. He wants to do this. He wants to steal, kill, and destroy your children. His number 1 job is to show them the world, offer it to them, and then give them back nothing. We need men and a generation of men who will stand in the gap and say, not on my watch. That kid is mine. You're not going to come between me and my kid, right? I can get pretty hot pretty quickly. My temper has been with me my whole life. Start messing with my kids. You're going to see a whole nother level of pastor show up. Satan wants to sow discord among our kids. He wants us to understand he's trying to rip them away from us and create division. And so if you're a father, you understand this job of the devil is drawing a line in the sand as a dad and saying, you're not taking that one. And that's what we need for our church, this people of God. We need them to understand that as well, that it's not just dads on the table, it's all of us. We need to draw the line and say, you're not taking those. And so the main text that we're going to look at is faith. And we just read just a minute ago the Hebrews 1-7 and all this faith. And now faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. For by it people of old received the commendation. By faith we understand the universe was created by the word of God, so that it is seen was not made out of the things that are visible. By faith Abel offered to God a more acceptable sacrifice than Cain, through which he was commended as righteous, God commending him by accepting his gift. And through his faith he died. He still speaks. And by faith Enoch was taken up so that he did not see death, and he was not found because God had taken him. Now before he passed, he was commended as pleased God, and without faith it is impossible to please God, for whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. By faith Noah, being warned by God concerning the events as yet unseen, in reverent fear constructed an ark for the saving of his household. Do you realize that your faith might save your household? I'm not saying that God's going to give you this red carpet because you're a Christian and life is never going to be hard, and your kids still may run off the deep end, even as you modeled faith to them. But it could save our household. And that struck me. See, we've got three types of faith. We've got these three types of faith: the saving faith that sets us free from sin and bondage, and we see in Ephesians 2:8. Then we've got this living faith, this gift of faith that we see in 1 Corinthians. And this is the type of people that when chaos is happening all around them, they still have faith that God's going to do something. Those type of people, we have this living faith, and that's where we're going to hone in on this living faith. We're going to look at the last part of this chapter, Hebrews chapter 1-7, and hone in on Noah. And Noah is going to give us 4 lessons, but Ephesians says, for grace you have been saved through faith, and it's not of your own doing, it's the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one can boast. God gave us this faith so that we could put it on display, not hide it and be ashamed of it. And so this type of faith that we're looking at, Hebrews says, by faith we understand that the universe was created by the word of God, so that what is seen was not made out of those things that are visible. And we understand that our faith is what really sets us apart as the people of God, that we trust and believe in something we have not seen. But yet, this whole chapter focuses on what faith is. It's not just a feeling, it's action. And God is calling his people back to action. And he goes through all these things. And then we get to the life of Noah, and he says, by faith in verse 7, Noah being warned by God concerning the events of yet not seen, in reverent fear, constructed an ark for the saving of his household. So the first lesson we've got from the life of Noah, this is Genesis 6-9. Don't worry, I'm not preaching the entire chapters of 6-9. We're going to highlight them. Legacy fathers display their faith to their kids. Genesis 6:8 says, but Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God, and Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And so Noah is displaying his faith to his kids, and this legacy father wants to display his faith to these kids. And so we need people that are going to show up and show their faith. We need a church that's going to believe the next generation matters. We've lost generations because we've been silent. We didn't teach them properly. We tried to entertain them, and we've driven them away from the church. This generation that's here today, I get to work with the students on Sunday mornings in our transition looking for a student pastor. This generation is seeking something that is different. They need people who model that faith to them and invest in their lives. And maybe you don't have kids, that's fine. They still need spiritual fathers and mothers that help guide them along the journey. And so Noah, this righteous man, lived in a time where evil and culture was just messed up. They lived in the time where Nephilim ran the world, and these evil people were everywhere. And the longer that God saw people on the earth, the more sad that he was mad that he created man. And so Noah got an assignment from God. He found favor in the eyes of God. And God said, the longer man is on the earth, the worse he gets. I'm going to wipe him out. I'm taking him out. So this lesson that we learned from Noah is that he was blameless in the eyes of the Lord, and his family knew that, and other people around him knew that. He was not ashamed of his faith. We need people just like Noah who walk with God, no matter what, and not be ashamed of them. We need these radical lovers of God to be on display so the generation coming behind us has something to look forward to, and that we're pointing them to the one who can save. Our kids should see us growing in our faith. That stat that says if a father gives his life to Christ first, 93% of his household will follow. You're talking about responsibility? Man, I didn't sign up for that on March 6th of 2009. I didn't sign up to have all this stuff happening. They should see us on our knees. They should hear us praying. They should hear us apologize when we're wrong. They should understand that we're not perfect, and as the more that we try to be perfect, the farther apart we get, and the less likely they are to mimic what we have. We need to point them to the one who is perfect, and that is God. He's the perfect Father. Psalm 78 says it this way: "O my people, listen to my instruction. Open your ears to what I'm saying, for I will speak to you in parables, and I will teach you hidden lessons from our past, stories we have heard and known, stories from our ancestors that were handed down to us. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. For he issued his laws to Jacob and gave his instructions to Israel, and he commanded our ancestors to teach them to the children, so the next generation will know." That is a heavy charge for us as a church, to make sure that we're teaching the next generation the wonderful deeds of the Lord. Do we lead our families with this contagious faith and we notice that our kids are taking part in it? Or is our faith just some kind of secret that we show up to church? See, like I said, my kids don't see Pastor Robbie. They see broken, messed up Robbie. They see dad who loses it, and dad who doesn't get it right, and dad who makes mistakes, and dad who's not always calling them with grace. He sees passionate dad. He sees all these different things. Am I pointing them to Jesus? See, Noah listened to God and built an ark just like God told him. He displayed his faith to his family. He did this so that God might spare, through his grace and mercy, people that he created. Genesis 6:14 says, "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in it. In the ark and cover it inside and out. This is how you are to make it. It should be 300 cubits long and 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high. And make a roof for the ark and finish it so that there's a cubit set above it. And set the door of the ark in its side. And make it with lower and second and third decks. For I behold, I will bring a flood waters upon the earth and destroy all the flesh and that is in it under heaven." So Noah did all that God commanded him, and he modeled this to his family, and he showed his kids that my faith is important, and that's what's going to save us. We live in a time where 75% of middle schoolers think it's okay to cheat. Middle school and high schoolers think there's no problem with cheating. We live in a time where iPhones rule the day, and TikTok videos and social media platforms, and everybody's trying to get hits and likes. They'll do whatever it takes to become popular, and some of that drives our culture away. We live a time where it's okay for students to punch teachers because they have no respect for authority. We've got to draw the line back in the sand and take our kids back. We've got to take our schools back. We're facing things that our kids have never faced before. We never knew what it was like to walk in their shoes. They need models of the gospel. They need people who are helping them along in their journey. So we need men and women who are not afraid to stand against the enemy and say that my faith matters, which leads me to my second point. Legacy fathers protect their families. Hebrews 11:7 says, "By faith Noah, being warned of the things that were coming, in reverent fear constructed an ark for the saving of his household." Do we realize that our faith could save our families? Could keep us from impending doom? I've been in ministry for 23 years. I've seen stupid stuff on display. Some people brag about it. But the sad thing is I see their kids walking in the same footsteps. This generational curse that's been put on them. The Lord said to Noah, "Go in the ark, you and all your household, for I've seen that you're righteous before me. For 7 days, I'm going to send rain for 40 days and 40 nights, and every living thing that I've made I will blot out from the face of the ground." And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came upon the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wives and their sons' wives went into the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Noah listened to God. He understood what this meant, and he wanted to protect his family. As a result, his whole household was saved. A few years ago, we had the opportunity to go to the Ark Experience in Kentucky. And this was amazing. I like to build stuff, and I've liked to move things, and I'm fascinated with structure. And I walked into this thing, and I was like, man, this is awesome. Look at all the screws in here. I mean, if you've ever had to put deck screws down on your deck, you got nothing on the ark. I saw the construction, these massive beams that are like 6 foot wide by 50 feet long, and it's this full replica of the ark. And I'm walking through, reading all these plaques and understanding, and God gave this assignment to him when Noah was 530 years old. For 70 years, he's working on this project. Talk about faith. I mean, there's days where you know he was in the wood shop or he was in the woods cutting trees like, this is dumb. There's no flood coming. I've been building this boat for 35 years. I'm the laughing stock of the community. But he kept that faith, and he kept displaying it to his kids in hopes that God was going to protect him and his family. And so we see all these things. It took him 70 years. What assignment has God given you that's taken 70 years? Man, do you ever think that your faith is a way to protect your family? I never thought of that until I started reading this. That because my faith, my family might be protected from things that they don't have to walk through. It hits me that my faith and this weight of being a dad just keeps getting heavier. I'm not here to beat up men. I'm not here to make you feel bad. I'm not here to throw shade. I'm here to encourage us that we don't have to always be perfect. We just have to be available. A faith that is not tested becomes shallow and weak. And Noah was trying to show his sons that this journey of righteousness is going to take a long time, and that this faith is worth modeling, because James tells us that the testing of our faith produces endurance, and endurance produces righteousness. God may have called you into something that's taken a long time to get to, which brings me to my third point. Legacy fathers model their worship to their kids. In chapter 8, the boat is healed, the rains have stopped, the boat came to rest on the top of Mount Ararat in Turkey area, and as a result, God opens the door and allows all the animals to go down into the valley and start their multiplication. The first thing that Noah wants to do when he gets off this boat is worship God properly. He'd been cooped up with all these animals and his family. I mean, that's a long Thanksgiving dinner, you know what I'm saying? Being on a boat for a year with the family members that you might get on your nerves. And so Noah comes out and he opens the door and he lets the animals out, and the first thing he does is wants to worship God. He wants to engage his family. So Noah went out of the ark with his sons and his wives' sons with him, and every beast and every creeping thing and every bird, everything that moves on the earth went out by the families from the ark. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And when the Lord smelled the aroma, it was pleasing to him, and he said, I will never again curse the earth, the ground, because of man, for its intentions of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living thing as I've done. Because Noah's faith was found favor in God's eyes, and he was considered righteous, and he comes out and he worships. I saw this and I realized that God loves barbecue. You hear me? And he's put these animals on the altar in an act of worship, and his families and his sons were there, and they were displaying it. See, we need a people in a generation of men who are not ashamed of their faith. I know what it's like to walk into church, and this is our posture, because this is way easier to put my hands in my pocket and hold my coffee cup than to worship God and show that to our kids. But we've got to realize that when we model this, it might be affecting the next generation. We need a church and a people of God who love God, and that's on display for them. And it's this longing to worship. I can't wait to get off this boat so I can worship you properly. Man, do I live like that? Not all the time. That's hard. Just like Noah, we need to lead our families to worship God and to understand that this has implications, that this has influence in us. Our kids need to see us actively engaged in what worship looks like. And we worship God in the good times and in the bad times, and that's hard. When you get a diagnosis or something that's there and you say, I don't feel like worshiping God today. My life has been tragic. There's been pain after pain after. God's saying, you know what? Worship me anyway. We need that on display for our kids. Fathers, you can lead your families to love God and model worship to them so that they will one day lead their kids to do the same. Hebrews 11:6 says, and without faith it's impossible to please him. For whoever who would draw near to God must believe that he exists first, that he rewards those who seeks him. Which brings me to my last point. Legacy fathers live intentionally. Genesis 9. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And you, being fruitful and multiply, increase greatly on the earth and multiply in it. Then God said to Noah and his sons, behold, I establish my covenant with you and my offspring, and with every living creature that is in with you, the birds, the livestock, every beast of the earth with you, as many as come out of the ark. It is for every beast of the earth. There are lasting benefits to this faith. Noah didn't just get the blessing of getting off the ark. God told him, now go fill the earth back up. Be fruitful and multiply. Take the goodness that I've given you and the second chance and go fill the earth so that a new generation might know who I am. We need people of God on display modeling this to their families. This living intentional legacy. My kids, good or bad, mimic what I do. They see me at the stoplights, they see me on Capitol Boulevard, they see me playing golf. I'm very competitive. My daughter is very competitive. We hate losing. We're playing football in the pool yesterday. My daughter's trying to drown her brother so she catches the football. I love that about her, that tenacity. She ain't messing with her. We need this culture of men that are engaged in our schools and communities so that they start to look different. We've got a whole generation of people that are in our student ministry that need spiritual fathers and mothers that are giving them ideas and understanding about who God is. We need kids in our kids ministry to have people of God, not just women, by the way. We need men of God on display to our younger generation so that they'll know. It's not about just holding our faith to ourselves. We need to put the stake in the ground and take back our families. Culture's trying to destroy them. Culture's mad at us. They're mad at men because I've got too much bass in my voice. I don't care. Right? Even if you're not a father, you can still have influence on kids. You can still help this next generation know. We need to get involved. We need to be active. You might be feeling like no matter what I've done or no matter what model I've seen, I don't like what I've seen or what I've looked at. God can change that. Here's how I know this. Tuesday night, we have a baseball game. We win, by the way. Cha-ching. You got somebody in your life who can just make you go 0 to 60 in about 2 seconds? All right, this is Pastor putting his nice dress clothes to the side, his title to the side, and this is just raw me. We get out of the baseball game, conversation happens. My wife tells me, please don't make that phone call. Wait till tomorrow to make that phone call. What do? Make the phone call anyway. We're dealing with this right now. I'm not waiting till tomorrow. The phone call in about 2 minutes, a minute and a half, escalates. It is not pretty. I lose my temper. My household sees me lose my temper. They leave the house, come back in the house because I'm still losing my temper. It's not pretty. At the end of the conversation, everything I said was correct. I was true. Grace was not on my tongue. The truth was out. Corrections needed to happen. This conversation took a different turn. And at one point, at the end of the conversation, I'm sitting at the counter with my hands on my head going, that didn't go well. And my wife told you not to make the phone call. Like, you've been married to me for 23 years. You know I'm making the phone call. I thought I'd blown it. And I'm sitting here preaching this message. This should have showed up next week when I'm not on stage. It should have showed up when I'm not preparing a message on how to be a good father. I'm sitting there, get off the phone, I immediately text the person that I'm having the conversation with and say, hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lost my temper. I apologize. That's not how I should act. I tell my kids individually, they come down. Ask the question, what is it like to be on the other side of you? Well, it was not pretty to be on the other side of me on Tuesday night. My kids come down, I say, hey, I'm sorry. You shouldn't see your dad acting like that or talking like that. I didn't say anything I wasn't supposed to say. I didn't lose my cool and start cussing at people. But I lost it. And the whole time in my mind, I'm thinking, I've got to stand on stage before the people of God and act like I've got it all together. I'm wearing my church preaching Jordans. I've got it all together. And on the inside, I'm going, I blew it. Man, what a mistake I made. I hope I didn't ruin my kids' faith, because that's not the faith I want them to see. My older son, he's 17, he's working at New Life Camp. He's had a rough week dealing with all these New Life campers. He comes home, he's exhausted. He's getting ready to go back to New Life Camp. And on that day, I look at him, he leaves that morning. Wednesday, I text him this. I said, hope you have a great day. You're doing a good job working with these kids. Again, sorry for last night. You shouldn't have to see me or hear me like that. He replies, nah, it's fine. Stuff happens. You're fine. But thank you, and just reach out to me if there's anything I need you to pray for me about, if you need me to pray for you about. That's when it hit me that maybe I am getting it right. That I've got a generation of kids that love me regardless of how great I am or how bad I am. And what I do or don't do, they still love me and model and want to be around me. They want to play baseball with me. I'm convicted when my sons ask me, hey, you want to go play catch? And I don't want to play catch. But I know there's a day coming where they're never going to ask me to play catch. So I get up and I go play catch. My kids don't need to see perfection. They need to see imperfection and God's grace through that, and the redemptive story of He can heal even the broken, messed up relationship. My own father and I didn't have the best relationship. We couldn't get along. I mean, he taught me everything I needed to know. He helped me get to where I'm supposed to be. He modeled things, good or bad, how I'm supposed to emulate. But as men, we could not just get along. His way of doing things was right, and my way of doing things was wrong. And we couldn't work together, and we had this tension in our relationship. And in July, he got sick, and he was in the hospital. And before he went in just for a little blood transfusion, nothing major, just wanted to keep him overnight for observation. And we have this conversation that had been sitting, waiting to happen for 10 or 15 years. And he goes, I wish I was a better father to you. And I said, stop it. You were a great father to me. You were at every baseball game, every football game. You were invested. Sure, we make mistakes, but you were there. You were in my life. You helped shape me for who I am. We had this opportunity to patch the wound and heal the relationship. And I know that some people don't get that opportunity. We had this great moment, and 2 days later, he's dead. Massive heart attack. And I was grateful that the grace of God allowed me to have that conversation, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you paint the door. The door, who cares? It's the relationship. And for years, the door is what mattered in our life. And so, I've got these 3 really good kids, and I get this opportunity to be their dad. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And it's not easy being married to me, and I realize that. But I'm trying to leave a legacy to pass on to my kids so that they see the gospel, not me. Sometimes I get it right, but when my older son says, let me know how I can pray for you, that helps you win. Here's what we need. Legacy fathers need to leave a faith that invests these seeds of the gospel into these kids in this next generation. They need to let God grow that seed and bring it to maturity so that they can tell their kids about the glorious deeds of God. Legacy fathers do this. They display their faith to their kids. They protect their families. They model worship, and they live intentionally. Let me pray for us. God, thank you for the day, Lord. Thank you for even this week, Lord, as I'm preparing this. And on Tuesday, we have this conversation, and I don't like the way I was. And I felt like I blew it. But God, thank you for your grace. Thank you for letting it happen, Lord, because the message took a different tone for me personally. Lord, the working of it out became more flesh and real. And this weight that I carry became even bigger. But Lord, thank you for who you are and letting you be the one who lift the weight. God, thank you for my kids and my family, and let me be this dad to them. I love them. Lord, I pray that one day they're going to see the gospel and not going to see me. And that's the legacy that I want to live, is that all three of them lived their faith out loud on display for others to see. God, help us this morning. Heal what needs to be healed. Restore what needs to be restored. In Jesus' name, amen.